I think
okay,
the lock
so
of all time is, obviously, I feel embarrassed to say this because everybody knows this, that you have to bet offshore $66 to win $1. So he's a 1 to 61 favored Leonardo DiCaprio for The Revenant.
That's the lock, yeah.
That's a pretty good lock.
Dean, are there any other locks that you can foretell?
Certainly Inside Out for animated feature. Son of Saul for foreign language. And to get into the craft categories, cinematography for The Revenant, I would say those are pretty much the locks.
Let me interrupt.
Everything else there's a little wiggle room in there.
The other thing is that the way to approach it is what isn't a lock. It would seem like almost everything is a lock.
I would say the Best Picture isn't a lock. Which makes this
I would
year
say
unique.
the Best Picture isn't a lock. There's a lot of the craft awards that I don't think are totally set in stone. Also, Best Actress Brie Larson. I mean, that's close, but not quite a lock.
Jerry,
she's
let
a
me ask
lock
you
and Revenant's a lock. She's a lock and Revenant's a lock. I'd like to see Spotlight win, but I don't think it. I really don't think. And Big Short, who had the tremendous promotion campaign when it was released, and it was a comedy, and they hit all of the spots well. It's now out of contention. It's between Spotlight and Revenant has really picked up a lot of velocity.
There's still a couple of the most notable pundits out there, particularly Sasha Stone, that says of Awards Daily that is still saying that The Big Short's going to win. Although I think that she came out, when The Revenant came out, she gave it a rave review, and then over the past few weeks, she's been denigrating it to the point where, she says, half the critics don't even like it. It's got the worst Rotten Tomatoes or Metacritic score of any Best Picture, any Best Picture winner since Crash. So she's been,
really?
Yeah, I don't know where she gets those. I don't know where she gets some of her information. I think she's
from where Donald Trump gets all his information. Obviously, I've never heard something so ridiculous. I guess she has been.
Well, she's come out against the movie. She's come out against the movie over the past few weeks, saying that one of the things she doesn't like about it is the animal cruelty in it. And also, I know that's a stupid reason for not liking a movie.
But Dean, that's how she gets us to talk about her. I mean, that's foolishness.
That's a good point, Tony. That's a
very
good observation.
Well, okay. Outside of the negative, I think that The Big Short, the main thing that it has going for it is obviously the PGA win, and that's why it's a kind of a major wrench that's been thrown into the pot here. And I do think that in terms of the reception to The Revenant, I do think it's cooled somewhat. I think people are looking at it and saying, but what is it about really? And I think it's about, the most basic primal themes you can deal with, survival and vengeance over someone that you love, over losing someone that you love.
Jamie, I think it's movie as an experience in the theater. You shouldn't go and see it on the TV or wait for it. You should go to the theater. Now, it didn't work completely on me because I thought it was Leo crawling for 2 hours and a half, and it seemed like an ordeal and a punishment. I went to a doctor the other day, a doctor friend of mine, and he said six people had recommended recently that he see The Revenant. And I asked him one question that may go back to your Sasha. I said, are any of them female? And he said, no. And that's the only thing that I think could stop the film. If for some reason women who are a major part of the voting, the voters, if they don't get on it. But I can't see. I thought Spotlight might get some impetus. I think Big Short is out of it. I think that's faded away, and I think Revenant has been such a strong experience at the movies this year. I can't think of a more. Maybe The Hateful Eight might compete with it on the visceral level, and Mad Max
or Mad Max.
Yeah, Mad Max.
But how many of those voters watch The Revenant on a screener? You know,
that's a great question, because I do think that it makes a big difference. I agree with Tony that it makes a big difference to go see it. You know, if you see it on the big screen. But I have watched it for a second time on the small screen, and it still works. It still works for me. Yeah. So I think that's crucial.
Spotlight is gaining. For some reason, I really do think that Spotlight, not just because of the Indie Spirit Awards last night where it cleaned up, but I have noticed that there have been a lot of articles. There's an article in the Washington Post by Barron and everything, and there's all these articles in the last couple of weeks, like really like highlighting Spotlight and really praising it. That it wasn't getting, you know, it looked. We all said early on in the last, you know, in the beginning of the Oscar season, that, you know, Spotlight would definitely be the front runner, and it didn't turn out that way.
Yeah, well, here's another thing. Here's another thing, Jerry, that I'm other strikes against The Revenant, which I am predicting The Revenant to win Best Picture. And Dean, I think you're predicting Big Short, right?
No. I'm with The Revenant all the way. Okay. I never even thought The Big Short was even a movie that felt like a Best Picture winner. Like zero feeling for that.
You know it's in the conversation though.
Yes.
But here's some other things that are against Revenant. Big Short will win editing, I believe.
I don't think that's true. I think that Mad Max is going to win editing.
Absolutely. I think one of the fascinating things is we've been talking about no diversity and nothing and all of this, and the fact that Mad Max got 10 nominations is going to win at least 3 of them, contends for another 3, and is only out of the director, Best Picture, and
cinematography.
Yeah, right.
You know.
But the fascinating thing is that I think, and visual, it goes against Star Wars. Star Wars will probably beat it, but production design, makeup, editing, it's going to win all of those 3.
Yes.
Editing, sound editing, and sound mix. It's competitive. Yes. And here's one that you never thought would happen. It may beat Cinderella for costumes.
That's interesting that you bring up Cinderella. I'm looking at my predictions, which haven't really changed since we made them a few months ago on our prediction show, which happened only a couple of days after the nominations came out. So a lot of us were picking The Revenant back then, before it had even won the DGA and the BAFTA and so forth and the Golden Globe. So, with costume design that's the only one that I've made a change. I originally said that Carol would win, and I think a lot of us agreed with that. But then I hadn't seen Cinderella yet, and I finally caught Cinderella, and those costumes are absolutely stunning. I mean, in any other year, this would be a walk away like, oh, Cinderella, definitely, it's got to win. And they're very famous. The costume branch is very famous for like stepping out on their own, giving things awards that really aren't nominated for anything else, like Marie Antoinette and the Young Victoria and so forth. But if you see these costumes from Cinderella, there's just absolutely no contest. They're stunning. It's the reason to watch the movie.
Jamie, you asked what was a lock. I would respond that the editing in Mad Max is a lock for the award tonight.
See, I really think Big Short's going to win editing. And I think, this is outside, but I think Danish Girl might win costuming. But this is the other thing against Revenant. no screenplay.
Yeah.
So when was the last time that happened, that a Best Picture wasn't even up for a screenplay?
I don't know. That's a good point.
It was actually pretty. I think it's pretty recent, but I don't have it on my. Yeah.
Like I said, it happens all the time.
Right now. It doesn't happen all the time, but there was a recent one that was anyway. Yes, that's something against it. And of course, the big thing against it is the fact that Inarritu won last year for both director and picture. So
now Dean, you know that John Ford has won back-to-back, and Joseph Mankiewicz has won back-to-back. So it wouldn't set a precedent if he wins back-to-back.
Well, actually, there would be a precedent because in both of those cases, those were both split years. So Best Picture did not go to both directors.
Yeah. Okay.
So this would be a first if Best Picture goes to Inarritu for The Revenant. It'll be the first time that a director has won back-to-back and won as a producer. So.
And of course, the first time there'll be a 3-time back-to-back winner of cinematography, which that's pretty much a lock.
Yeah, I think, even though that, to me, that's the most exciting category that we already said. I know we said that before, but I would be really dumbfounded if that wasn't the case, though. That would be an upset, I would think.
It'd be a terrific upset.
I mean,
and there's got to be a surprise in here, I mean, there's got to be something that's going to surprise us.
Do you think the surprise will come in the supporting categories? If there is a surprise to be had?
I think the riskiest category is supporting actress, because I still think that there's something about the category fraud with having both Rudy Mara, which I think is a lead, and Alicia Vikander, which is a lead, going into that category. So there might be some kind of pushback against that, and maybe Jennifer Jason Leigh will get in there. Who's certainly
Vikander's a lock. Here, guys, and I got another lock for you. Vikander's a lock. Look at the body of work that she's had this year, not just the Danish Girl.
It's really for that body of work. It's not for the Danish Girl. I think it's.
We're all choosing Vikander, I think, but
yes.
But if there was a surprise, I could see it happening in that category. I really could. Even somebody like Kate Winslet. There's a lot of talk in the press lately about. It would be wonderful to see Kate and Leo together again.
Right. An amazing
with
photograph.
Oscar win.
not Revolutionary Road, obviously, but I mean.
Yeah. It'll be interesting. The evening, apparently, something leaked. They hand out programs every year at the Oscars to all the attendees. Someone took a photo of their program, and it listed the categories. It listed the order in which the categories will be announced. I think. So I think tonight's going to start off with the Screenplay Awards.
Mm-hmm.
And then...
That's unusual.
2 more locks.
Yeah.
Now those are pretty locky too. Yeah. I mean,
and then the third category will be supporting actress. So we'll find out pretty early in the evening.
To the Screenplay Awards, the thing about those is that it gives the Academy an opportunity to give the directors of both of those movies, the Spotlight and The Big Short, their Oscar for writing instead of directing. So
true.
So in a way, that makes The Revenant's win a little bit more obvious to me. But to me, the whole thing has been right down. The pundits like to go to the stats and everything, like, nothing's ever won the bringing up the guilds and so forth. Nothing's ever done this. This would be a total stat breaker and everything. But when you're trying to predict Best Picture, when I try to predict Best Picture any year, I try and go for the movie that seems like a best picture. I don't look at the stats or any of that stuff. Just does it seem like a best picture thing? Can I see it in the list of all the best pictures like in years to come? And I see The Revenant, but I don't see a movie like Big Short or Spotlight, which
agree with you.
pretty bland-looking movies. You know.
Oh, I think in like 2 or 3 years' time that those movies will be forgotten. I think the reason I think that Revenant is kind of the almost a lock here is because we are rewarding supposedly like achievements in motion like filmmaking, and it is extraordinary filmmaking. The only other movie that really comes close to that is Mad Max. A technical. I'm just talking from a technical perspective. And
well, kind of a wow factor kind of thing.
Yeah, wow factor. It is why, like, kind of why it is. These two movies are, I would say, are event pictures, like big screen optic movies that you go see on the big screen. They do, I think, lose something. I think they lose something on the small screen, but that's me. That's how I think. But I do think at the end, The Revenant, now you could throw that back at me and say, well, what about something like Crash or something like The Artist or something smaller movies, But I think when you have movies of this caliber up, it goes more their way, I think, but I don't know. I don't know how the Academy members think. That no one does.
The other thing, we're in a different world now. We're in the world of the internet, and some of the things, some of the stats that were remote are no longer remote. They're so immediate. You can go on and see all these pics and get all this information and have a much clearer. That's why I don't think there will be any surprises. I really don't. That in a sense, everything is given to people, and you don't have to seek it out, and you have so much information at your hands that I'd love to be surprised. Go love to be shocked tonight, yes. But I just don't see it happening.
Yeah.
Let's go to our. Let's talk about in terms of tonight's ceremony, and then we'll get to a list about previous ceremonies. Chris Rock. Now, this is I'm most looking forward to seeing Chris Rock and seeing what he does, because first of all, I think Chris Rock is brilliant, and in a way, I don't envy him being the host this year, but at the same time, as smart as he is and as fearless, I think it's a perfect time for him to be.
Are you
host.
kidding me, Jamie? It's a wonderful opportunity for him.
Mm-hmm.
He couldn't make it better. He couldn't have a better situation. Everybody's looking forward to it, and he's going to deliver. I mean, it's going to be it's going to be the brilliant part of the performance tonight.
Yeah, absolutely.
I completely agree. But if it were a comedian that was a lot less fearless than he was, I would not envy them.
Oh, sure.
So, what do you think? And this is one of the questions that I ask in the survey. I'm going to reveal later. Do you think the bulk of his opening monologue will concern this controversy, or do you think that he'll just touch upon it and move on?
I think that's what's going to happen. Is he's going to touch on it it'll be the first 5 minutes, and it'll definitely be the first thing that's addressed. So, the only complaint
that he could face is that he doesn't take advantage of this this one-time opportunity. Therefore, I think he's all in on it.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And do you think it's going to be something that reoccurs because the host walks back out, half a dozen times throughout the ceremony? Do you think it's going to be a recurring thing for him?
If he's very good on his feet, and so if the opportunity arises, he'll be right there. Sure.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Let me go ahead and reveal the survey, since we're talking about tonight's ceremony, and then we'll get into previous years. I have to find it first. Sorry.
All right.
This is live podcasting. Our chat room is open here. It's so exciting. We haven't had a chat room open in, it feels like years.
It has.
Yeah.
I mean,
we used to do it all the time. Okay, let me go to my survey. My survey has been created on Survey Nuts. That's honestly the title of the survey company. And let's look at the results. There were 10 questions here, and I could only accept 100 entries into the survey. So from those 100 entries, here's where we fell on these 10 questions. Tonight's awards, his nomination for The Revenant, Leonardo DiCaprio, it's his 5th nomination. Which of those 5 nominations do you think he was or is most deserving of winning? So there's The Revenant, The Wolf of Wall Street, The Aviator, Blood Diamond, and What's Eating Gilbert Grape. Those were his 5 nominations. 33.
I would just go out and just say What's Eating Gilbert Grape, which is, of course, is first, and is only for supporting actor. And we should, by the way, mention that he's been nominated one other time for Best Producer for producing Wolf of Wall Street. But, and then, speaking of Wolf of Wall Street, I really did think he deserved it for that.
Yeah.
So, but
okay, let me tell you what the people thought.
Between the two.
33% thought The Aviator. Second place was The Wolf of Wall Street at 29%. Gilbert Grape was third place. The Revenant, fourth place with 11%. And no one voted for Blood Diamond.
Right.
Well, there's a reason for that.
For me, the standout moment in his career was in Wolf of Wall Street when he had that drug-induced collapse and crawled out of the building and down along the ground, and it also prepared him for crawling all the way through The Revenant. But the other films, you don't have that moment. I mean, he's Howard Hughes. Yes, that's great. But is there a moment that sticks out? The airplane crash is a tremendous scene, but that's not him acting. And I think in The Wolf of Wall Street, he gave his most memorable performance.
Yeah.
Yes, I
agree with you. And it called upon comedic instincts. There's something about Leo, and maybe he recognized this in himself and he wanted to go a different direction to kind of break through it, that always seemed held back, a little bit self-maintained. And I
very
felt like
serious.
He really let loose in Wolf of Wall Street in a way that felt brand new.
Yeah.
So I would have absolutely given it to him for that. Second question, which of the following do you believe is the most maddening Oscar flub? So I gave 5 picks. Crash winning over Brokeback Mountain for Best Picture. Shakespeare in Love winning over Saving Private Ryan for Best Picture. Cinematographer Roger Deakins never having won an Oscar. Stanley Kubrick never winning a Best Director Oscar. Or The Dark Knight not receiving a Best Picture nomination. Now, judging from what you know about our audience, what do you think came in first place?
Probably Kubrick.
Yeah.
37%.
But the thing about Kubrick is he doesn't need an Oscar. He lived in an alternate universe.
Yeah.
He won all the awards in that. He is the champion of that. So his winning an Oscar, I think, is almost negligible.
Well, I mean, we're not talking about what it would have meant to him. We're just talking about the film industry recognizing its own. And, Alfred Hitchcock had to wait for an honorary Oscar, didn't he?
Exactly. And it wasn't even an Oscar. It was the Irving Thalberg Award, which is not an Oscar statuette.
To me, it's Deakins.
Irving Thalberg's head.
So, I mean, can that man do any better work, Roger Deakins, in so many different ways, and beat himself? And he's got two films out the year of No Country for Old Men. I mean, it's just. When I saw Sicario this year, I said, finally he's going to win. And then along came Chivo Lubitsky, and I said, nope, not going to happen this year, Roger. Another year. By the way,
he's probably going to have to wait for his honorary before he gets anything.
I think that's really what's going to happen. I think that really is going to happen. Or else they're just, maybe, I don't know. Every year it's always maybe next year. So, but I think it's going to be an honorary.
Second place was Shakespeare in Love over Private Ryan at 22%. Third place was Crash over Brokeback Mountain at 18%. Deacons was fourth place, and The Dark Knight was fifth place at 7% of the vote.
It actually surprises me that Crash over Brokeback Mountain comes in third, because that's what I would have put second. That's just an egregious error.
Which of the following? Here's our tasteless question of the evening. Which of the following will receive the biggest applause during this year's In Memoriam tribute? Haskell Wexler, Wes Craven, James Horner, Leonard Nimoy, Omar Sharif, and an overwhelming 63% said Leonard Nimoy.
Right.
Another lock.
I'm not quite sure about that.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, it's all. I mean,
they all deserve.
Those are all good choices. But I think.
But which one's death means more, Jerry? That's what I want to know.
I would have to say, just going on applause, I think it will be for Leonard Nimoy, really. That's the most recognizable, just universally, of the images that will be presented. I mean...
But wait, let me stop you here for a second. They don't applaud in them anymore.
They might not.
Oh, they don't?
Might not. They might not air the applause. In years past, there has been applause.
Yes.
But in some years, they use that out.
Jamie, would tonight, will David Bowie be tributed as well?
He better.
Yeah, he's got to be in.
What will the reaction be to him?
I mean, again, they don't air the reactions anymore. No. They decided a couple of years ago that the applauding actually made it into kind of a contest, and they got very down on that. So they cut the audio in.
I hope they bring it back.
So it's just going to be the music.
Oh, okay. Wow, that puts a damper on that.
What's the music going to be? Is Gaga going to come out and sing "Life on Mars" for the memorial tribute?
That's a great question. It's always some something relatively classic, I think.
I just hope it's not Bette Midler's "Wind Beneath My Wings" again, because didn't we deal with that? Was that last year or the year before?
Oh, I don't remember.
Yes, that happened.
that happened. I like that.
Hashtag that happened. Which of the following, question number 4, do you consider the biggest Oscar snub this year? Straight Outta Compton not being nominated for Best Picture, Idris Elba not being nominated for Best Supporting Actor, Carol not being nominated for Best Picture, Ridley Scott no Best Director, or Johnny Depp no Best Actor. Almost 30%, the number one, was Idris Elba for Beast of No Nation.
Mm-hmm.
A close second was Carol for Best Picture.
Well, that's good, because I don't think Alba was that extraordinary this year in that role. He was good. He was serviceable.
Okay.
But I don't remember a single scene where you said, "Wow, that's impressive. That's stunning." I mean, he is an impressive
figure. I agree with that. But you know why that's there, though? I mean, that's there because of the whole, that's the role that a lot of people are using that should have been included, the nomination that they feel should have been, one of the nominations they feel should have been included. I liked him in the movie. But you brought up which is for another topic for another show, that's a very interesting observation.
But he's been nominated elsewhere this season in other award ceremonies. So it wouldn't be a precedent to nominate him. Ridley Scott. I personally still think that the just the general ignorance outside of one category of Creed for picture and particularly for actor, but even for supporting actress and so forth. I was expecting Creed to be up there in the Best Picture
category
Yeah.
and nominated for probably 6 or 7 other things. That's how strongly I felt about that movie.
Well, that's where the snub. I agree with you. That's where if we're going for for just the diversity thing, you had a stellar movie there, and no offense to Sylvester Stallone, but just to only nominate the white guy, it seems just like such a kick in the face. I mean,
well, even almost even worse than that, the only people that originally were invited to the ceremonies tonight were the 2 white writers.
Yeah.
I mean, that is incredible. It's just complete.
You're talking about Straight Outta Compton?
Ignorance.
You're talking about
I'm talking
Compton.
about Straight Outta Compton. You're right.
Yeah.
You're right. I'm sorry.
Right.
Number
5.
Because the director wrote his own script on that one.
Yeah.
Coogler wrote his own script.
Fifth question was, which of the following are you most looking forward to from tonight's ceremony? The fashions, the musical numbers, Chris Rock's opening monologue, DiCaprio finally winning, or something else, other. Overwhelmingly, almost 60%, Chris Rock's opening monologue.
Yeah.
Second place was Leo. The fashions got 3% of the vote. Musical numbers got 0. Which by the way,
nobody looks forward to those.
They cut out 2. They cut out 2 of the musical nominee performances. For some reason, Dave Grohl is in tonight's ceremony. I can't imagine that he'll be playing something related to one of the nominees. So once again, the performances that actually need to be in the ceremony, deserve to be in the ceremony, are cut out and are replaced by completely superfluous stuff. And I never like that.
Because the thing I hate about it is that it ghettoizes those two songs and says, "Oh, they really don't have a chance." And who wants that? I mean, they should all be on a level playing field.
Which you could argue. I mean, I think Gaga's definitely going to win with Diane Warren, but you can argue that Simple Song Number 3 is actually the one song that is most essential to that movie, the one song that's actually a part of that movie.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And
that won't be performed tonight.
And probably one of the most unusual songs to ever be nominated for that award. Well,
and Anthony, I remember years ago when I saw who's the other nominated song, Manta Ray, I think is the name of the song.
Yes,
that has been cut out of the ceremony. I remember seeing him years ago in that Leonard Cohen concert documentary. I'm Your Man, I think was the name of it, and he sang "If It Be Your Will," and it was one of the most transcendent performances I've ever seen. I was like, who is this guy? And he is actually
now he's not a guy anymore, right?
He's a transgender, which he would make history as something like the second nominated transgender, like that's actually out in the open for tonight's ceremony. Number 6, question 6. Tonight's ceremony, let's see how this works out. This will be interesting too, because they want to have all the nominees present their thank yous to them ahead of time. So when they win, they can put the thank yous at the bottom of the screen on a scroll, so their speeches can just focus on, what we typically relate to the magical moments, the spontaneous, not just a laundry list of thank you to this person, but something a little bit more meaningful. I asked the public if they think that's a good idea. 63% said no. 37% said yes.
Interesting. I think it's a good idea because, I don't think that we get much out of a laundry list of names, and I don't think that those are the speeches that people remember or whatever. But then again, it's all up to then you can say, well, it should be up to the winner to decide. So.
And once you're in that position too, and you're not necessarily in your body at that moment, it's not going to matter that you gave them the names ahead of time. If you want to thank them, just thank them. You're probably going to end up thanking them anyway.
Yeah. Exactly.
Number 7, question 7. Do you believe the Academy should return to 5 Best Picture nominees? 70% said yes. 30% said no.
I agree.
They
should go to 5 again. Because my big reason for that is because having, more than 5 creates a kind of thing in the rest of the categories where they feel like they have to give Oscars to everything that was nominated. Everything gets one, at least one. And I don't like that. I don't like that that trend.
Mm-hmm.
It also feels like it leaves out any kind of room for any odd movie to make it into, like a one nomination kind of movie like Cinderella.
Right.
That's becoming rarer and rarer now. And I think that's the reason, because there's 10 nominees.
Expanding the category. Go ahead, Jerry.
It was a lame idea. It was something to try to get, because they figured, okay, well, we didn't nominate The Dark Knight. Everyone was upset. And then they want to go ahead and do this, and this, which I say is just a way to, boost ratings, obviously. But it's just not working. And at the end, I go back to the 5 pictures. It's a lot easier. I know that they didn't start out that way, but it was such the norm for a while. They tried it, and I have to be very honest with you, it didn't work. It really did not work. And
in the years that they had 10, in the couple of years where they did really try and get 10, then you get nominations for things like District 9 or An Education, just some movies that have absolutely no chance of winning. So why even have them there?
Yeah. Question 8. To what extent do you think Chris Rock should address the Oscars So White controversy in his monologue? 67% say hit it hard. 22% hit upon it briefly. Third place was avoided altogether. Question 9. Who is your favorite Oscar host out of these choices? Now, I only used the most recent. I didn't go back to Bob Hope and Carson and Chris Rock, Billy Crystal, Whoopi Goldberg, Ellen DeGeneres, Steve Martin. Tied for first place was Billy Crystal and Ellen DeGeneres. No. Tied for second place were those two. First place was Steve Martin.
I think Steve Martin has that great combination of being able to be funny and also being able to be serious. And change up very, very easily and believably. But Billy Crystal, outside of Johnny Carson or even Bob Hope, Billy Crystal will always be the most memorable Oscar host, I think.
Final question. Which of the following do you believe is most worthy of an honorary Oscar? Harrison Ford, David Lynch, Liv Ullmann, Mel Brooks, Werner Herzog. Who do you think won this?
Probably Harrison Ford.
Harrison Ford came in 4th place.
Oh, then David Lynch.
Herzog, maybe, I don't know.
First place was Mel Brooks, followed by Werner Herzog, followed by David Lynch.
That's a surprise, especially considering that Mel Brooks already has one.
Well, he has one for co-writing. Right?
For writing. He was the only writer on the producers.
Right. But, he could still win one just for the nature of directing so many movies.
Absolutely. And, that's not unprecedented. So, yes, but David Lynch, for me, But I would also throw in there, you threw in Lee Ullman, but it's hard to mention Lee Ullman without mentioning Max von Sydow.
Max von Sydow, yeah.
He definitely should get. I mean,
he would actually be my number one. Like, I think he's way deserving.
They better act quick.
I can't believe they haven't done it yet.
Yeah, he might outlive all of us, though. You never know that.
Yeah. And he will get the biggest applause at that year's in memoriam. I think that's another. Yeah. Anyway, let's get to our guest interview tonight. This is part of a much longer conversation. We're going to air 9 minutes of it tonight, but the full interview is available on our YouTube page at youtube.com/Movie Geeks United. But it was a great conversation because I wanted to get a sense of what the L.A. area is like around this time of year. And our guest tonight is Brian Donnelly. He is a tour guide, or as he likes to call it, a geographic entertainer, with Dearly Departed, which is the most entertaining tour in Los Angeles. I took it a couple of years ago, and whether you're a resident or a visitor to L.A., you need to take this tour. It makes a stop at all the spots throughout town where celebrities have met their demise, both the infamous and the obscure. And it actually, it's entertaining, it's riveting, and it also feels very sacred in a way. It's a great tour. And Brian is an incredibly entertaining and expert enthusiast on the Hollywood area and all things L.A. And as Oscar Weekend approaches, he gets the kind of behind-the-scenes stuff that you don't see on TV. He takes photos, he takes video in the lead-up to this weekend. You can see all of those images on his Facebook page. Look him up, Brian Donnelly. That's 2 N's, 2 L's. And he's been posting videos just today. He has a little GoPro that flies up, and you can see the whole shebang, the snipers on the roofs of nearby buildings and the whole thing. It was a great pleasure to chat with him and welcome him to the show. And here he is. Here's Brian Donnelly. You're so embedded in Los Angeles and Los Angeles culture. Do you sense that from the people in the city, or that they haven't become kind of jaded by this event? Are they still very excited about it?
I live 4 blocks from Hollywood and Highland, so I will be down there taking photographs before and after all that kind of stuff. And everyone that I know that lives right here in Hollywood pretty much hates it because even now they hate it because of the traffic. They hate it because that's the main thing. They hate it because of traffic. Now, if I may, keep in mind they closed off the street in front of the Dolby Theater 1 week before the Academy Awards this year. The first year they did it in 2008, they did it 6 weeks ahead of time. So it was really bad. They've got it down to a science where they can do it now in 1 week, and they're in and out, and it's fine. So the people should be pretty happy about that. But no, they don't like the traffic at all. It's a pain in the neck for most of these people. For me, this is Christmas time for me.
I think it was last year. Might have been the year before, but I was watching some videos that you were taking. And you're taking some again this year as well of the whole atmosphere around that area. And I remember you got some shots that we never see on TV because, they wouldn't show it in the kind of the pre-Oscar promotion. The security people and kind of it almost looks like SWAT team members at the top of the ceiling.
That's exactly what it is. That you have and weather-wise we should be better. So I'm going to be hopefully getting some better stuff here. You see the guys with the M16s with the snipers up on top of the buildings a block and 2 blocks away from the where the red carpet is and things like that. Oh yeah, they take it very very seriously. All of Hollywood and Highland is shut down at 6 o'clock Saturday night. Completely, it'll bring in bomb-sniffing dogs, and you cannot get in or out. And if I may, going back to whether people like it or not, a dear friend of mine lives in a building directly behind the Kodak. And she now leaves town. She's in Hawaii right now. She leaves town because what is normally a 5-minute walk from Hollywood Boulevard, cutting through to getting to her apartment from one office to her home, on the weekends when this thing happens, she has to go through 4 different checkpoints. It takes her 15 to 20 minutes to do the same thing because she has to go through checkpoint and over and over. They take the security here very, very, and obviously they should, sadly, but they should. It's somebody would love to do something crazy here. Who knows?
Well, the eyes of the world, the eyes of the world is on this event every year.
Yeah. And so what we do, Beverly and I, we take a walk. We do our perimeter walk. I'm going to talk when we're finished with this phone call. I'm going to be doing one just a little bit here. Then I'll be posting up a little bit here just to see what's the latest thing going on. We do one right before about 2 hours before, and we highlight all of that, everything about from security to what's going on, and I try and get whatever I can before they say, hey, you can't be here, get out of here.
And when does that usually happen?
They start like 4-ish, 3:30, 4 o'clock is when I really have a harder time getting around things, getting closer up.
So when the ceremony is over, and obviously a lot of the stars kind of depart and they attend various parties in the area, I would think.
Yeah.
Are people able to enter that area at that point and see anyone?
Yes. The actual intersection, the full intersection of Hollywood and Highland, there is the west side of the street, which is where the red carpet begins, where the celebrities are dropped off and picked up. That's not available. But on our side, the two corners, it almost looks like they're expecting a riot. There'll be concrete barriers and chain link fences around. But from behind that, I'll have my ladder so you can get up there. And the celebrities, especially exiting, they will come out. They're screaming, they're shouting. A lot of them will hold up their Academy Awards if they won something before they get into a limousine. I mean, you're about 50 yards away. But still, you're right there, and it's still screaming and shouting, a lot of fun. And with a good lens, you can obviously get better. But yeah, it's very accessible. So as soon as they get to the last picture, best picture, I'm pretty much out the door to make sure I've got a good spot. Yeah.
I am crazy about Los Angeles. It's a great passion of mine, and I go up and I visit as often as I possibly can. Part of the reason why I love it, and I'm sure you love it too, is just how colorful the people are that congregate there.
Yes.
And I would imagine, as we said, when the eyes of the world are on this event in Los Angeles during this time of year, they come out in droves. These characters. What is the strangest or most flamboyant or memorable thing you've ever seen around this time of year?
The regulars are, you'll have the Westboro Baptist people. I loved it. I love getting pictures of them, interacting with them, because that's just interesting. But they're regulars. There was a gentleman, and Beverly and I caught a video. Vitaly. We happened to catch this guy as he was wearing a couple of Academy Awards ago. He was wearing the Buick Swan outfit. Now this guy, apparently, he does these stunts all over the world. And he had been trying to sneak in, and we happened to catch him at that point when he was being arrested by the police during that whole segment there, and we happened to catch all that. And he was dressed as Bjork and giving out replicas of Academy Awards, fake ones, and he handed us one as he was getting into the police car, and we still have that sitting on our mantelpiece. And interestingly enough, what's really, because we looked in the basket, and he had all kinds of things from best aunt to, favorite dad. I mean, just goofy things you just buy off the shelf. And the one he literally just happened to hand to Beverly and I was best couple, which we thought was kind of interesting. It was just charming for us.
That's kind of nice.
That was kind of a strange one, seeing him and seeing somebody. We find out later is literally World Moon. I didn't know that at the time, but he was kind of wacky. Yeah. Various protesters of various kinds, protesters all over the place, protest against anything. It'll be interesting to see what happens in the election year. So we'll see if anything happens from that.
That's true. That's right. And the Academy kind of facing its own controversy this year with the racial diversity.
And that's the interesting part about at the corner of Highland and Sunset. Anything past that going towards Hollywood and Highland is blocked off, where the limousines go in. So that's where you congregate. They congregate right there, is because the limousines are coming right up from there. So you'll see a lot of the protesters right around there. So I'm going to be there for a while too. Yeah.
When you are there and you're snapping as many images as you can prior to the ceremony, do you go back home and actually watch as much of the ceremony as you can?
Oh gosh, yeah. Yeah, so, I watch it. If I may, I watch it in spite of the fact that I don't watch a lot. I don't go to the movies very often. I really don't. I watch it for. I know they're bringing me talk about it. I see what's hot. I want to try and recognize. Sometimes I have to see people because I don't know who the hell they are, and if I'm going to get a picture, I need to know who I'm taking a picture of. But it's fun. I just watch the Academy Awards because I grew up with the Academy Awards.
When it comes to the Oscars, of course, there's the circus and the pageantry aspect of it. But does the actual event itself hold some kind of old Hollywood romance to you still?
Oh, heavens, yes. It does for two reasons. One is yes, it's just an award show. It's not in the great scheme of life. No, it's not that big a deal. But as you just said, it's the pageantry. There's something about that. There is the latest of style. There's the latest of who's who or what they are wearing. It really is important, that kind of thing. To me, the other part is, and it's the neat part of when I'm standing there and I'm watching them walk down the red carpet, or I'm, if I'm in my living room where I'm 2 blocks away, but if I'm actually there and I'm watching them as they get out of the cars, I am 1 block away from the Roosevelt Hotel, where in 1927 they had the very first Academy Awards. And that means a lot to me, because there's just that the old and the new are right there within 1,000 yards of each other. And it for me sometimes, and people sometimes make fun of me, Beverly's gotten used to it, sometimes a moment I'll just stand there and I'll see something and I'll just start crying, because to me that there is a piece of old Hollywood. Old is relative in the term of it's only the 1920s, 1930s, but movies, films, Hollywood changed us and shaped us, and it made us as a country come together. Silent movies. You'd have a Russian sitting next to a German, connected to Spain. They couldn't understand anything, but they watched a silent movie and they all laughed. They all had that in common. They all had that. They all had films in common. And it just continues. And it brought us together to me as a country. And now I'm right in the center of where all of that began. And it is an honor.
Okay, that was Brian Donnelly. You can check out his photography and video work covering everything leading up to the Oscars on his Facebook page at Brian Donnelly, 2 N's, 2 L's. And check out Dearly Departed Tours, where he is one of the geographic entertainers, and he is simply the best at what he does. Check them out at dearlydepartedtours.com. Tony, because you live in the Vegas area, have you ever spent an Oscar weekend in the L.A. area?
Only one time, and a friend of mine, Tom Grice, who directed Will Penny and died of a heart attack early, I hoped he would get me tickets to the Oscar, and he didn't. And I was in my hotel room about 2 days before, and I was living in Dayton, Ohio, and I had written my article on picking all of them, and I had to pick between Exorcist and The Sting, Exorcist and The Sting, Exorcist and The Sting. And I had the feeling that The Sting was going, and I said over the phone, no, give him The Exorcist. So my pick in the headline was Exorcist to win the Oscar. So it's kind of a bittersweet experience. Being at the Oscars in a hotel room and picking them incorrectly. Now, granted, the good thing about that was it was the last mistake I ever made. Other than tonight, and by the way, I imposed a 5-minute, or along with your 9-minute, a 14-minute exile for getting the writers wrong for the wrong picture. I made a mistake that is horrifying. Of course, it was Straight Outta Compton. So please forgive me.
No, that wasn't a big deal at all. I've looked into going up there Oscar weekend, and it's hard to find a hotel for obvious reasons.
It is.
Especially right there at the Dolby Theater. There's a big hotel, I forget what Hilton and Highlands. It's a big recent hotel that was constructed there right before the Oscars moved into Dolby, I think. And that place especially is booked. You can imagine if you're staying in that hotel, all you have to do is look out your window, and there are all the red carpet arrivals right below you, directly below you. That would be so wonderful. In the Hollywood Roosevelt, it is right across the street. And I walked into that last time I was in the L.A. area, and you feel it washes over you the second you walk in that door, just that nostalgia of old Hollywood.
Well, that graveyard that graveyard that I suggested you go to, the Westwood, that was quite impressive, wasn't it?
It was the best part of my trip, yeah.
Right.
Marilyn Monroe's gravesite, and it was beautiful. So what we're saying is go to L.A. If you're a movie fan, you haven't been to L.A. yet, do it, because it's just life-changing. Now, while we're anticipating the most memorable events of tonight's ceremony, let's look back at a few of the most memorable events. That's a hard word for me to say, of past years. This is according to the Wrap. Some of these are before our time. Like in 1959. Apparently, at the finale of the Oscars, it ended 20 minutes early, which is something that has never happened since.
Wow. And Jerry Lewis was the host.
Yes.
Jerry Lewis was the host.
He had to improvise for those 20 minutes.
Yeah. So that must have been very painful to watch.
It was 20 minutes on how women are not funny.
Him probably stuck an entire, glass of water in his mouth, like he does, or I don't know, maybe he did that typewriter routine or something. I don't know, but
can you imagine an Oscar ceremony ending 20 minutes early? Of course, they were much different back then, but Marlon Brando refusing his Oscar—that's probably one of the two most famous moments in Oscar history,
right.
I'd say. The first being the naked man streaking across the stage while David Niven was hosting.
Yes.
What happened to that? What was that guy trying to do? He was flashing a peace sign.
I mean, what was he trying to do?
No, that's not a peace sign. That's an organ.
Yeah.
I mean, was it just a prank? Was he trying to come across with some message?
It was just a prank.
Okay.
That's all it was. There was no political motive or anything like that behind it. It was just a prank.
It has struck me that sometimes, on two occasions, the winner really, you remember that moment when you think about that person, that Sally Field saying, "You love me, you really love me." I mean, every time I see her, I think of her saying that, and the insecurity, and then of course the divine Barbara saying "Hello, gorgeous" to the Oscar. Both of those are indelible moments that the winner did.
Yeah. Or Adrian Brody giving Halle Berry that big kiss before, that was something memorable.
Here's a question for you guys: what is the longest standing ovation in Oscar history?
Probably Charlie Chaplin.
That's right.
Am I right? Yeah.
12-minute standing ovation when he picked up his Oscar in 1972.
Which was moving. I remember being a kid watching it, and even I was moved by that as a child. So yeah, it was.
What was oddest was that the ovation was completely silent in honor of.
Rim shot.
There's a rim shot. You just can't hear it. Here's another infamous moment. Rob Lowe and Snow White's disastrous musical opening.
Oh God!
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. I'd say that is. I would throw that in the top of just like, whoa, that was nuts.
Yeah. What were they thinking? Carrying on with what Tony was saying, nominees making memorable moments in their acceptance speeches. Here's one: Jack Palance doing push-ups on stage when he won supporting actor.
Right. Mhm. Yep, that was incredibly memorable. I always I don't know why I remember this because it's so inconsequential, but I guess it's because it's inconsequential. But I remember when Joe Pesci won for Goodfellas, his only comment up there was, "It was my pleasure," and that was it.
Mm-hmm.
That was.
I thought, wow,
some of those should all be like that.
Yeah, that was the year that the Oscars finished 20 minutes early. Oh no, that was. Here's a question.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Jerry. I'll ask you this question.
Okay.
What Oscar acceptance speech inspired a movie? Inspired its own movie?
Oh, that I don't know.
I know that one.
Well, what is it? I'm curious. What is that?
It was Tom Hanks's acceptance speech for Philadelphia, where he talked about a teacher that inspired him, a homosexual teacher that had inspired him, and that was made into Inside Out. In and out.
Completely
in and out, not Inside Out. That's this year.
Movie, but...
but yes, it was made in and out. And if you've seen that movie, you'll understand.
Jamie, I'd like to join in here because Dean brought up the picture in Philadelphia, and I think that's really relevant for several reasons. For the diversity idea. And the idea of 5 Best Picture nominations. In 1993, which would be 23 years ago, it did not get a nomination for Best Picture. And Demi didn't get a nomination for Best Director. And the only 2 awards it got were Hanks and Springsteen's song. And ironically, as I think I've said to you before, the more important song, I think the more relevant, really meaningful song was Neil Young's song that accompanied the home movies of the boy at the end. But when you think that Carol in this year was not given a nomination, going that far back to the diversity and the sexual controversies, questions, and obviously given the election, the campaigns today, we haven't changed that much. But
right.
the idea, and I've seen Philadelphia recently, and I just think it's an exquisite motion picture. I think it works beautifully, and it has so many layers. And I don't think anything that's competing today is equal of Philadelphia. But you think back and you think that didn't get a nomination. Now, maybe if there were 10, it would have. But
it would have gotten in there.
It's shocking that a film that and that film, I can't think of. It's probably the most effective. This is going out on the left wing, liberal film of all time, because it was a film that changed the attitude, the perception that was prevalent in the early 1990s. That was a movie that had that power and potency and value, and yet you look back from today's point of view, you say, "Wow, we haven't come that far, have we?"
Sadly, you're right.
That movie was important, and I saw it just being managing a theater at the time, and that opening weekend, a lot of people flocked to it, and many of those people you could tell were near death, but they struggled their way to the theater because they wanted to see their fight represented on screen in a in a mainstream film. I mean, it was a big landmark. I think that movie was, even though there are smaller movies that dealt with the AIDS epidemic prior, but this was Hollywood kind of embracing it full on for the first time.
Well, not full on, because it didn't get a nomination as Best Picture. But yes, Hollywood dealt with artistically and humanly. That's the most important thing. Humanly with a topic that was so crucial to our society and our culture and our human condition.
Now back to the silly. This is an odd segue. Here's another moment. Roberto Benigni going crazy. That was a surprise when Benigni won Best Actor.
That
really was.
That was unexpected, and and I feel regrettable.
Yes.
I think it hurt his career. I think it hurt his career greatly. Because he went from being, this really, he was in a couple of very funny movies, obviously Jim Jarmusch, but also some Italian movies. And once he did this, he reached the, let's be honest, the pinnacle of his career, and it's just been downhill ever since. I mean, where is he, first of all? And, he made that Pinocchio that we talked about last week.
Yeah.
And that was it. I mean, am I missing something?
He did a Woody Allen movie. What was it?
That's true. He did a Woody Allen movie. Yeah. I mean, that happens a lot, though, with people.
Mm-hmm.
You think, winning the Oscar, you're going to just keep going up and up, but it's really not the case. There's a bit of a bit of an Oscar curse out there, where people just disappear afterwards. I mean, where's Jean Dujardin? I mean,
that's the other thing I was going to bring up. The artist no one has benefited from that win. No one. That has hurt the actor.
Even the dog
and
is
the
dead
director.
now. Yeah.
Oh God.
Yes, the dog is gone, and I think Hassan Avicius, the director, has a new movie coming out this year, but even his career has not, taken off. Or
but hasn't that movie been languishing for years, though? I mean, that movie's been in the can for a while, and he's been having trouble getting that out.
But somebody on this panel explained to me how the artist won.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you. I don't know.
Weinstein.
Explain it to me.
Yeah, Weinstein. I think that the fact that it was when I saw it, I said that's Best Picture. I saw it at the New York Film Festival, and I said that's Best Picture right there. And I even told Hassan Avicius, I saw him real quick. I said you're going to win Best Picture, I guarantee you. Why it won was because it was the perfect combination of charming and funny, different, and serious. And also, it was a movie about movies, and they love to give awards, particularly for some reason in the past 10, 15 years.
But you got to admit, I mean, yes, the movie had all of that for general audiences, but you got to admit that movie would not have seen the light of day without Weinstein.
True.
Yes.
I agree with that.
It would not
Which,
have
by
made
the way,
$60 or $70 million.
Yeah. By the way, this is the first year since 2007 that the Weinsteins do not have a Best Picture nominee because Carol and Hateful Eight didn't get in.
Can you imagine what they would have done with Spotlight if their promotion was behind Spotlight? Spotlight, I think, would have won the Oscar this year.
Yeah, but it is refreshing to see them out of the running in some ways.
That too.
It is. It's not so crazy cutthroat.
Yeah, I mean, but they're how many Oscars? Something like 190 nominations or something. I mean, it's crazy. I know it's a lot more than that probably. But another memorable moment: Halle Berry's Oscar speech, where she was overcome at her win. This according to the Wrap.
Yes. Although I'm having trouble remembering it at the moment.
But you're an old white man, right?
You were all white men.
In terms of racial diversity, that was the year when the Academy could not be blamed for not embracing racial diversity. Because you had Washington winning, you had Halle Berry winning, you had Poitier winning the honorary award.
Mm-hmm.
It was a big night. I mean, it was a meaningful night for that reason.
Yes.
Back to the ridiculous. John Travolta's Miss Adita Menzel. You know, it really delights me that there are so many truly funny people out there. That's one of the delights of social media for me. Because I'm like, oh gosh, there are people out there with humor that just like mine, and they came out with a Travolta name generator. where you would just do your name and come up with some crazy botched version of it. So funny.
I remember that. That was hilarious.
Oh. Well, this is another good question. And I don't want to get into politics because I just don't. But it is an election year. How political will some of these speeches get? Do you think they will?
Well, why did you ask that question if you don't want to get into politics?
That?
I don't want to talk about movies, but here's movies.
Yeah.
because I'm not talking about political division. I'm talking about, do you think that any of the winners will bring up politics in their speeches?
Well, let's look at who the potential winners will be. Let's look at some of those potential winners will be.
Sean Penn isn't winning.
Yeah, no. So Sean Penn's not winning, but isn't he gonna? Is he going to present the Best Picture again, or?
Probably not. I mean,
okay.
They don't do. Yeah. But.
Yeah. Okay. So let's look at the potential winners. In each, let's start with the acting category. Leo, there could be something about the environment. I think that would be something that we
or Native Americans.
Or Native Americans, yes. Brie Larson, I have no idea if she's going to be the winner. Alicia Vikander, I have no idea. Stallone, no. Stallone will just be, he's going to get a long-standing ovation. Not world record, but he is going to get a big, long ovation. Director, that's the director. That's where if it is Alejandro, you better believe that there's
definitely
going to be something
say hello to Mexico and then might say something about the whole Trump controversy and so forth.
Yeah, no, and it would be, and I would expect nothing less, and I hope he does.
I hope he doesn't. I hope he doesn't because Trump would then attack him.
Well,
and we don't need that.
He's a classic bully. He can dish it out, but he can't take it. So of course he's going to attack him. But let me say the other places. If Adam McKay wrote the script for The Big Short, right?
He's definitely going to say something.
He's going to say something. So just be prepared.
The director
for that.
of Anchorman is going to get up there and make us a.
Yeah, but I think McKay's film is like a Hillary commercial. It has it both ways.
That's true, but I would say he will say he's definitely going to say something. I would be surprised if he didn't. Now everyone else, I don't know. Those are wild cards, right?
The spotlight
that's
people.
Enough.
The spotlight people might have something to say.
Oh, they'd have to. They would absolutely have to.
Which, I only bring that up because if we're talking about most memorable moments in award ceremonies, the times when that has happened, whether it be Jane Fonda, or Vanessa Redgrave, or Michael Moore, those have tended to be the most memorable moments of those ceremonies.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't see anything on that level happening, though. That sort of seismic level of those three people.
No, there's nothing yet.
Yeah.
If it was
even
a couple
when Elia
months
Kazan,
now,
even when Kazan accepted his honorary award, it was so fascinating to see who applauded and stood up for him and who sat down. I mean, I remember some like Ed Harris refused to clap or stand up. And, there were a few people in the audience. It was kind of mixed.
Because so much of the theme of the night is going to be racial diversity and female the diversity of that. They almost have to talk about that. I think that's the primary issue that everybody's expecting. And if you win an award and you have the opportunity to say something, and you almost are committed to it. So I think there'll be some racially oriented comments that might not come out in a different setting, but because it's so primary here, it's so fundamental, I think it almost has to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I hadn't even considered that until it just came to my mind, but yeah, I would think so. So, the best moments of the night, the most feel-goody moments of the night, might that be Stallone winning?
That would be it.
and also, I think
Leo.
Yeah.
You think Leo will be more of just, okay, finally, we can get over this thing?
I hope he says something like that when he gets up there.
And I don't think it's any fault. I don't think it's any fault of his own, but I think the public is kind of caught up to this, and they've created a tone of, I'll just give it to him, or like he's fighting for the Oscar. Like the Oscar is the only thing that's ever been in his sight, and you've got to finally make his dream, like a Make-A-Wish kind of foundation.
Doesn't the Lady Gaga song demand an emotional reaction?
Yeah. I think so.
I guess I really don't like the song. I mean.
Yeah, but that's not the point. The point is what it represents.
Yeah, I just wish the song was better. I just, I mean, the emotional impact of music will be absent for me personally.
I wish the movie were better too. I mean, it's a fine movie and it's an important movie. I thought it could have been executed better.
Jamie, by the way, I wagered offshore on 4 awards. Now, last year I was lucky because I got Birdman at the very beginning when it was a tremendous underdog. I only bet a throwaway $10 on it. It won me for $10. It won me $180. So that means it was and Boyhood actually went off Birdman actually fell and went off to the favored. I bet on Spotlight, which is my only loser because I think Revenant is going to. I have Vikander, and I have the director Inarritu for Revenant, and my biggest play is on Stallone as supporting. Those are so I have 1 loser, I think, and 3 winners.
So you're saying that I might be able to borrow some money after tonight?
Sure. Yeah. How much change do you need?
It's interesting. Okay. I think that's all the content we had to go through.
Okay.
Any last thoughts about tonight's?
I'd like us to make an argument or discuss or presentation about the 3. We started this program with it about the 3 films that we think are the contenders for the Oscar, and each of us make a statement about that. Maybe that'd help a little bit.
Now what?
Well, let me start off. Let me start off.
Okay.
The Revenant, as Jamie has said, The Revenant won the Producers Award, and that has won.
The Big Short.
That film has won the last. Big Short. I'm sorry. The Big Short has won the last 3. The director Guild picked Inarritu, and 4 out of the last 6 years, the best director has won. The Guild's award has won the best director, and it has won the best picture. And Spotlight may seem like it doesn't have a whole lot going for it, but the actors won the ensemble award, and the actors are a tremendous block. I don't think that Redford and all the actors that had won, there were 3 or 4 that won, Mel Gibson, that won first time out, they won the award as director. They would have done that without the actors' support. So I see that maybe the actors can support Spotlight enough. But I think those are...
And let's don't forget that Tom McCarthy is a former actor.
Yes.
So they love that. They love giving best director to former actors. So
that's the argument for Spotlight.
Well,
right.
That it's a little lighter weight than All the President's Men, but it has something in common with that film being so cool and so being able to reveal things slowly and dramatically.
Well,
and of course the argument for of course the argument for Big Short. Yeah. Oh, sorry.
The
argument for Big Short.
Go ahead, Dean. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay. The argument for Big Short is that it's the most relevant movie out of all of the nominees. Relevant in terms of what we're going through today. So it's the most immediate movie, and its win would have more to say about
Dean, I
I
think it blurred its relevance. It may. I mean, we didn't leave the theater committed to something. We left the theater
I agree.
saying.
I agree completely. I mean, it's not a movie that I care for. I don't feel that it. I don't think that it has. I think that it lacks clarity. The movie. And in many ways it lacks clarity, not just in its explaining what's going on and explaining the nuances of the issue at hand in it.
Well, when you know that McKay changed some things because the people it was about didn't want him to do it, and that he dealt with the banks, and so it's quote the businessman making a film that's quote anti-business a little bit, but not. It doesn't have much punch. Doesn't have much wallop, which it should.
Well, I was surprised that it got any notice whatsoever, much less on the PGA. But it's definitely in the conversation. For Spotlight, I think it is in the conversation, even though I personally did not fully love Spotlight. I was lukewarm on Spotlight.
Well, did you love anything this year, Jamie? Was there any film that you loved?
Yeah, you can see my top 10. So my top 4 were Carol, Love and Mercy, Brooklyn, and Room. And I can honestly say I loved all 4 of those. Those 4 were meaningful to me.
I agree with 3 of them.
Well, good. That's why I chose them.
I thought Room is contrived. And
I feel that
the guy would not act in real life in actuality the way that he does in the film, and the credibility of that just bothered me. I just didn't.
The guy would not act like that?
I don't want to give it away to people who haven't seen it.
The jailer.
Yeah, I'm going to take a rug outside and just not even just listen to her what she said. Sure. I just didn't believe it.
The whole rug thing was just I could not believe that. I could not swallow that plot construct. But then again, I hated the entire movie. I found that movie awful.
Yeah. And I liked it and expected not to. And I expected to love Spotlight and Bitten. The movie that I liked a lot more than Spotlight is a movie that you despised, Tony. Which is the truth. So,
no, I almost picked Carol as my best. It warred on my list between Carol. I think Carol was just about the perfect film that it tried to do. It delivered on what it wanted to do. It was beautifully directed, beautifully acted. It was true to the literature, true to human nature, and of all things, it ended with a positive ending. When we didn't expect that. I thought that film was excellent, and the fact that it didn't get even a nomination was really irritated me.
Yeah, me too, very much. All right, Jerry, any last thoughts?
It's just some surprises would be nice. I mean, I think Tony brings up a good point. We're so all the Guild Awards, all the award ceremonies before this, you're kind of burned out. We feel like we know what's going to happen. Just some surprises would be nice. Really, even an upset, a major upset would be nice.
It'd be wonderful.
They're mentioning, in the chat room. They're mentioning, Mustang as possible upset for Southern Saul.
Upsets happen in the foreign language category, whether it's No Man's Land beating Amelie or Lives
That's
of
true.
Others beating Pan's Labyrinth. That's usually where the upset is. A film like Departures, remember the Japanese film? I forget what the favorite was that year, but when that won, that came out of left field. No one was expecting that. So Mustang could very well be the thing that takes, or a movie that one of those other movies that haven't gotten a very wide release in the art house circuit yet. That could happen too. Mustang would definitely be an upset though.
Or possibly in the documentary award.
Does Cartel Land have a chance against Amy?
That's what I was going to bring up. I was just going to bring that up, Tony, that Cartel Land ended up winning the PGA, I think. So that's a possibility as an upset, over Amy.
It would really be shocking if Roberto Benigni wins Best Actor again tonight. I mean, no one would see that coming.
That would be stunning.
Well, you guys remember me still expecting Lincoln to win.
Right. All right, guys. You guys are all going to be glued to the TV screen? Do you guys all sit back and have your own Oscar watching ritual?
Yeah. This year, I actually went out. I haven't had cable for a really long time, but I do still have like an analog, an old tube TV, So I went out and bought a digital converter and so forth and a antenna, and so I'm going to be watching the Oscars on television for the first time in probably about 2 or 3 years. The last 2 or 3 years,
I can suggest how you really enrich the experience, as I am going to. Vodka martinis.
Yes.
I'm watching it dry this year. I'm watching it sober this year, which is the first in many years. So that
in honor of Mad Max.
No, just in honor of. I don't know. I gave up. I just stopped drinking. So this is really very interesting.
Oh, that's a good.
In honor of your liver.
Yeah, my liver. There you go. But no, I'm not much of a drinker as it is. But I just finally. It's not a massive thing, but I just figured, let's try this dry, without having a couple of drinks.
There's I watch it, I record it, I watch it live, I record it, and I watch it at least 2 or 3 more times during the week.
Why?
Because I love it.
I guess
now
for
I do
me,
a lot of
it's
fast
just,
forward.
it's a one-time thing, and I like to think of it as just floating off into the...
See, I'm envious of Jason, because our friend Jason over at Oscar Show, because he has taped all of them, and he has copies of all of them from previous years, so he could go back and just watch the... That would be fascinating to do that for me. I would love to do that.
Yeah, I'm impressed by his collection.
Oh, I know. It's crazy. I mean...
would it be rude? Would it be very rude to say, Jamie, get a life?
No, it wouldn't, because it's obvious I don't have one. I mean, I'm the first one to admit that.
If I did that, I might go back to drinking. But I may very well do it anyways, regardless.
Okay, guys, so thank you for a wonderful panel. Tony, thank you as always. You can read Tony's criticism at TonyMacklin.net. Make sure that you visit that site and read his criticism, listen to his interviews that he's done with Hollywood legends over the years. I mean, legends.
Sam Peckinpah.
Okay, guys, enjoy the Oscars. We're going to close off tonight's show with our own Oscar medley. This is something I performed for Jason's show, and it's offensive, so if you're easily offended, feel free to turn it off right now.
Wow.
It's a Billy Crystal style medley, only with a bear rape and Jamie rapping. That's the only difference between me and Billy Crystal.
Oh my God, rap bastard.
Okay. Have a good night, guys.
Good night.
Have a good night.
You too.
Enjoy the Oscars, everybody.